I had an eye on glass making for most of my life, and when I got to be a junior in high school, I needed a summertime job. So I went to a glass factory that was in the next town over from where I live now, and they hired me on as summer help. And what I found was just like a treasure to me. It was something that just I loved art. I loved making things. I loved working with my hands, and I found glass, and that was at Louis Glass. I wanted to go back to the glass factory and learn all that I could learn about glass making. So that was kind of the beginning of my glass making career. Shortly thereafter, I graduated high school and returned to the glass factory because I knew I could get a job there. I knew there was something that I already liked. And guess what? Time goes on. You find something that you've settled into, and I stayed there for 20 years. The fact that there was so many people that were willing to help me at the factory, teach me the skilled jobs, how to get the glass out of the furnace, how to shape it, how to give it to somebody else so they could use it to finish their process. That was one of the things I liked. There was a lot of young guys there, same age as me. In fact, I went to school with a couple of them, and they said, "Yeah, come on up here the furnace and grab a pipe, and I'll show you how to get the glass out of the furnace." And so I remember them showing me, and that was a beginning. That was a beginning. And then one thing led to another. There's curiosity, magnetism that I had. After I figured one thing out, I had to go figure something else out. And I would go to the next step and the next, and ended up being a glass blower and worked 14 years at that facility. They were very generous at Louis Glass. They encouraged us to learn all that we could, even if it was outside of the jobs that we were presently working at. They would let us make handicrafts on our break time. So making handicrafts back then included making little birds, making glass flowers, making glass paperweights. And there were some of the skilled workers there that were good friends of mine. And I said, "Hey, how do I do that?" And they would walk me through it, and they would help me to develop my skill. And eventually, my coworkers started buying the paperweights I was making. So I was making extra dollars, and it wasn't really costing me anything. The colored glass that I was using was crushed up marbles and crushed up milk of magnesia bottles, and any kind of colored glass chips I could find, I would make it into a paperweight. We were kind of novice at making art glass there, but yet it was so much fun. And after a couple of years, I was invited by Louis Glass to demonstrate at a local crafts fair, the Jackson Mill Jubilee. So I started doing that, and guess what I found? I could sell all these glass pieces I was making on my break time. I could take it to the crafts fair and sell my product. And the wheels begin to turn, and I begin to figure it out. Well, what if I could do this on my own and I could just make art glass all the time? And so eventually I began collecting the tools. I began reading books. I began to visit other glass artists and acquire the knowledge and the tools and the equipment and the know-how to start my own art glass studio. I'm finding out the more you learn, the more you find out you don't know. Now, during the time that I've been here working for myself, I'll be working and I'll be thinking about what I'm doing, and suddenly you have that epiphany, that moment where you say, what if I tried something a little bit different, you know? What if I did this instead of that? And sometimes you make a mistake doing something, and the mistake turns out to be one of those, like they call them a happy mistake, okay? And you learn from it. And if you don't, you're not paying attention, okay? So it's really important. I'll figure one thing out at a time, and it's not so much inspiration where I have this explosion of knowledge. It's more like I figure things out as time passes, and I just keep working at it, and I get a new idea and a new idea, and there's just so much out there to do. I think that being in a community of glass, whether it's the history of the glass in West Virginia, which is a rich and wonderful history. There's the sand that is mined in West Virginia to make glass. There was over 480 glass factories in West Virginia in the last 100 years. Okay, and there's an abundance of natural gas. There's limestone in West Virginia. These all created a rich environment for glass to grow. So all these things have affected me. Whenever you have a community of people with a like mind, you're able to acquire the knowledge that they have and add it to your own, and thus you also share your knowledge with them. It's a very perpetual growth system that you have. So, you know, it's a really neat environment here in West Virginia. There's a lot of crafters here. There's a lot of people that's skilled with their hands and they're clever with their minds. And, you know, not only in crafts, but also in woodwork and metalwork and ceramics and even these other crafts lend to my glass making. I see something that a crafter in ceramic is doing, I think, wow, I wonder if I could do that in glass. Or sometimes I work collaboratively with metal workers and make lamps, where I work with other glass workers. I worked with Kelsey Murphy, who's a world-renowned cameo glass artist. So, you know, the list just goes on and on. The people I've worked with and grown from the experience of doing so. This is a lot of fun to do this, and I think that has been key in keeping me here. I like to be entertained. I like to use my creativity. I like to use my hands. I like a challenge, and it is really a challenge. This is one of the biggest adventures that I've ever been on in my life, and somehow for 46 years, this craft, this trade, this artistry of glass blowing has held my attention now for over 46 years.
Still learning.
Still learning every day.